understand and feel that they have a vision to develop their own community. So we started meeting with the villagers to ask them what their sense of place was. What did they like about their way of life? What do they want to preserve about it? What threats did they see? What opportunities did they see? And we turned this into a book called the Sense of Place book that was written by the villagers about the way of life in 8 separate villages. We also did education, because beyond empowerment, education gets people really seeing how they can take control of their future. We started teaching English. We opened an education center. We started computer classes. And we offered long-term scholarships to show the people that we really supported what they were doing. And in the schools, well, the new schools were overwhelmed because they had this entire influx of tsunami population. So paying supplemental teacher salaries, getting the schools to a point where the children didn't have to learn in buildings where they were sitting on the floor and rats were running around. You know, these were some of the very basic programs that just made sense. We didn't come in with an outside mandate. But what we did do was go and listen and try and bring on board the skills we needed to respond, instead of, say, having to build housing or having to build new boats, which was being done on a large scale by many international organizations. We saw what wasn't being done.
Our scholarship program is for students from about the ages of 6 to 18. It is for students who were in the tsunami, from tsunami-affected villages. We have about 135 students at the moment, sponsored by different organizations and individuals. Most of them are 7-year scholarships, unless they graduate before the end of the 7 years. And what we do is we hold an interview every year. They lost their boat, the engines, and lots of crab traps, and also his aunt and about 5 members of their extended family. Government pays tuition, but they don't pay for their uniforms, their transport, their stationery, their books, that sort of stuff. They have several different uniforms, one for classes, one for phys ed. If they go to religious school, they have a religious uniform, and everybody has to wear uniforms, not just private schools. And so these scholarships pay for most of that sort of stuff, but not tuition. Quite often they stop school after grade 9 if they don't have that supplement. Most of them were able to continue before the tsunami. They don't have as much income as they used to, so it's more difficult. It just eases the burden a bit.
My name's Jason Terzis. I'm an Australian working for North Andaman Tsunami Relief. I'm very involved in a project called the Rural Outreach English Project. What I do is tailor curriculums for the needs of specific villages in the North Andaman region of Thailand. And I go out to each village every so often and teach them English.
Mas.
Mas.
Ki.
Ki.
To.
To.
Good.
English is tailored to their needs with regards to dealing with tourists, buying and selling, giving directions.
Yeah.
We have a lot of ethnic groups that we also outreach to. We teach Moklin people. They are sea gypsies that live on the sea and have done for hundreds of years.
Dolphin.
Most of them do speak Thai, however there are some of them that don't speak any Thai whatsoever or read or write Thai. So in teaching, the challenges are there. It's really important to demonstrate what you're teaching so that they understand what the subject matter of the lesson is.
Good. Squirrel. 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 Hey!
There was a tremendous amount of fear in the first days after the tsunami. And that was the other value of working on programs that did empowerment, was giving people a basic sense of that it was okay. To help sort of stabilize and promote information that was reasonable and consistent, we created community centers in a number of villages that served as a meeting place, as an information gathering place, The community centers are important because they focus on the intangibles that really make a community. Spending time together, having a common understanding. There was no place for villagers to get information on what was a tsunami, when was the next public health meeting, what organizations were offering counseling for traumatized children, you know? So these sorts of common knowledge that helps a community define themselves as a group had been shattered by the tsunami. And we were able to give a space where people could not only do that, but socialize, have a cup of coffee, gossip, read the morning paper, do normal things. And so the community centers helped normalize people's sense of existence. The community centers were also a breeding ground for projects that originated from the village. It was from the community center that the villagers decided they needed daycare. So they started a daycare program that we supported. It was from the community center that the recycled card handicraft program was born, because there was villagers that had the will to do it. It was from the community centers that the Moken boat handicraft project was born, or the chicken delivery program for that matter, or the idea for vegetable gardens on Koh Sarin. All came out of this communication space of the community center. And I think this is part of the new model of community development, is not the top-down model, but the bottom-up. It comes from the villagers. That's where the ideas, that's where the motivation comes from, that's where the work comes from. A number of women lost their husbands in the tsunami, and they didn't have economic options after that. They had traditionally relied on their husbands to generate income while they took care of the household and the children. So our handicraft programs have provided a real opportunity for these women to have a hope for the future and to put their kids through school. Jasao, a member of our soap group, lost her husband in the tsunami, and I didn't see her smile until the day she sold her first batch of soaps.
NATR has been very supportive in marketing because obviously marketing is a very important part of the success of different projects, whether it be tourism, whether it be handicrafts. Because if people have skills, if they have a great product, but they don't have somewhere to sell the product, it's not sustainable. This group will not be here next year if nobody thinks about the market or about how to sell it.
One of our main aims was to promote an ability of people to manage their own affairs. And that means giving them the tools. So whether you're doing a boat repair project, or you're doing a handicraft project, or you're doing children's activities, it's helping the villagers to organize it themselves, to direct the resources themselves, and to understand the implications of the project so that in the long term those skills accrue to them in whatever they want to do. And that they may not keep doing soaps, they may not keep making handicrafts, but the small business skills, the financial management, and the belief that they can do something on their own is maybe even more critical than the actual project. So our long-term goals have always been based around getting people to do what they need to on their own.
Sue that will coordinate getting the order to Bantainaka, if it's a soap order, for example. Check the quality control, make sure it's right. So we just act sort of as a medium, and Sue is the marketing and salesperson for the whole handicrafts group. But she also has her own handicraft.
ตอนนั้นก็ซื้อปลาขายปลาอยู่ค่ะก็ขายพวกกะปิเวลาว่างถ้าเกิดถึงหน้ากะ